Well, you know, I heard someone say the other day that, oh, some of us just are weak and don't have the ability to stand up to life's challenges. And I don't believe that. I think that we have, all of us within ourselves, the ability to meet life's challenges.
Text Brenda Wright. Leaving the shop.
And one of my favorite scriptures is what maybe some people would think of as a trite one, and that's David and Goliath. But there's a passage in there where it says that David ran towards Goliath. He didn't just walk towards Goliath. He didn't let Goliath come towards him. He ran towards Goliath. I think that epitomizes in one verse of Scripture who we need to be and what we need to do in our lives, because it does have an expiration date. We're just here for a truly short period of time, and whatever challenges come our way, whatever we need to face, it's all for a purpose, and it's all in the hands of a far more intelligent being than we are to guide and direct that purpose and that life. And when he throws challenges at us, it's for a reason. The reason being to make us stronger, and it can't make us stronger if we run away from it. It can only make us stronger if we run towards it.
Watch your leg there. Thank you.
Gene Wright looks out the window of the tracks train, headed home after a full day of work. He lost the use of his legs, but he refuses to let it slow him down.
You need to be strong. You need to be steadfast. You need to just endure these difficulties because they're there for a reason. And one of the reasons is just to make us strong.
Strength was not an issue for Gene in his younger years, an outdoor enthusiast who loved river running, hiking, and rock climbing.
And it goes back, I think, fundamentally to the time that I spent with the Boy Scouts, especially, doing things that were difficult and training them that they can do hard things. And in training them to do hard things, I think kind of trained myself to do the same thing.
Gene loved working with the Scouts because it allowed him to shape the lives of young men and point them in the direction to become responsible adults.
Really changed me in that I realized for the very first time what a dramatic change it could make in the young men to do something that was really difficult, get them away from their mothers, get them out in a situation where if they wanted anything to eat, they had to cook it. If they wanted the dishes washed, they had to wash them. And, you know, I've been in situations, and I'm sure the boys were as well, where I would go to sleep at night after the first day, and I would say to myself, I don't know how I'm going to possibly get up and do this again tomorrow. There's just no way. It can't happen, but I know I have to.
But Gene didn't realize that the skills he taught on the trail were meant as much for him as for the boys he led.
I grew up riding motorcycles. I love motorcycles. Haven't ridden for many years, but I love motorcycles.
In 2013, Wright bought a business converting motorcycles into trikes. He bought this used Honda Goldwing from a guy in St. George and headed up the highway toward his shop in Salt Lake City.
It also came with a little trailer, and I'd never pulled the trailer on a motorcycle before of any kind, let alone a two-wheel motorcycle. So we hooked up the We took the bike for a spin, it was fine. Took the bike and the trailer for a spin, it was fine. Had lunch, loaded things back in the car and took off. And I got on the freeway and Brenda followed me in the car.
And he looks back over his shoulder, and the whole time I'd been following him, he had never looked back. And he just glanced over his shoulder, and as he looked back forward, I saw the trailer jump to the right and then jump to the left and hit the rumble strip, and then it jumped over into the gravel, and it just pulled him right off the freeway down into the median, and grass and dirt was just flying everywhere. And I got the car stopped just as quick as I could. Now, Jean and I are high school sweethearts, and I'd been driving the car barefoot. And the joke in our family is I never have on the right shoes. And I just had these little slide-on shoes, so I jammed my feet in my shoes and jumped out of the car. And as I started down this embankment, it was just really slippery and muddy. And I just said just a really quick prayer to the Lord, just don't let me fall. Let me get to him. And as I said that prayer in my heart, I got this actual physical feeling of being encased with armor. It wasn't a soft blanket, it was armor. And I started out towards him, and he was just lying so still. But as I got closer to him, I could see that his breathing was just very labored and very loud. He was just gasping for breath. And I dropped to my knees beside him. And on my left, a man knelt, and he says, "I'm an EMT." And 2 beats later, another man knelt on my right and says, "I'm a paramedic." And another 2 beats after that, 2 women knelt on the other side of him and said they were nurses. Sorry.
Brenda and Jean are members of the Mormon Church and believe in miracles through faith in Christ. As the EMTs, paramedics, and nurses worked to keep Jean alive, others who stopped provided him with spiritual assurance.
And they were cutting his clothes off from him, and they somehow got his jacket off. And as they started to cut his T-shirt off, his garments were exposed. And I'd already been thinking about this, and I just said, "Is anybody here LDS? Does anybody hold the Melchizedek priesthood?" And this brother says, "I'm a worthy priesthood holder, and I have oil with me." Sorry, I just haven't done this. And a man standing behind me says, "I'll assist." And so they knelt down by him and began to administer to him. And as they did, everybody that was working on him just raised their hands up like this. And it was a very powerful but a very quick blessing. And the only line I remember from it is, "You will live to be a blessing to your family."
The motorist who stopped kept Jean alive long enough for emergency crews to arrive and rush him to a hospital. After surgery on his spinal column, doctors believed that Jean would live, but had some very bad news for his family.
One of the doctors came out and he told us that some of his vertebrae had been crushed and that he would never walk again. And it was just a real surreal moment. Like, obviously earlier in the day I had thought about, what if he is paralyzed? And that thought had now just become a reality.
The once strong and energetic father, husband, and youth leader now laid in a hospital bed fighting for his life. His family began to realize that his life and their lives would never be the same.
Finally that night we were able to go in and see him, and again he was just so still and unconscious and, labored breathing and everything. And it was just weird to see my dad, who I kind of looked at as this big, huge idol of mine, someone who's known to be strong, who's known to do hard things like do 50-milers and slalom ski and, landscape his own yard and all that stuff, just to see him laying there, and then also knowing that he would never walk again.
The skills Gene learned leading boys on those 50-mile hikes now came into play, finding the strength to get up again day after day.
There's a joke about physical therapists that what's the difference between a terrorist and a physical therapist? Well, you can negotiate with a terrorist.
Week after week, month after month, Gene fought to do simple things like roll over, eat, sit in a wheelchair, and learn how to talk again.
My goal is to dedicate my life now to doing what I can to further the kingdom and to be of use and value to the Lord and to other people. It's going to be a struggle to get to the point where I can be useful to anybody, but we'll do what we can, and my commitment is to do whatever I need to do to get back to being as functional as I possibly can.
The recovery process challenged Gene more than anything in his life.
They have these tables that are so high that have like wrestling mats on the tops of them, and they would get me up out of the chair and sit me on the edge of these tables, and we just do exercises there to help me develop core strength. And when they first did that the first time, I couldn't sit up. I just fell over, boom. And as time went on, I developed a little more strength and was able to sit up and then, progress beyond that. Well, one time I remember I was laying down on the mat, and the objective was to move myself around on the mat to another position. And I got to the point where I'd moved myself as far as I could, and I wasn't at my goal. I was just partway there, and I couldn't go any farther. And I told the physical therapist, I said, well, I'm stuck. I can't go any farther. And he says, well, do whatever you do if you didn't have anything else to do, any other alternatives, I guess is what he said. And just left me there. And for me, that was exactly the right thing to do. And I did. I figured it out and was able to move myself around as we were trying to do initially.
While Gene struggled to recover his life, his sons focused on keeping his new business open.
It was kind of tough for my brother and I because we both have our own jobs. I had just started an internship, that spring, and I'm trying to, impress my bosses so I can get a full-time job when I graduate. And my brother, he's 12 years older than me, so he's much more advanced in his career, but he has his own responsibilities and things like that.
In addition to their own lives, Lance and Travis also had to care for their mother, who was emotionally devastated by the accident and her husband's condition.
And we finally came to the decision that we should just continue to operate the business until my father was well enough, or in the unfortunate case if he passed away, then we could obviously look into selling the business. But we decided to kind of take the optimistic approach and just assume that one day my dad would take the business back over.
It turns out they were right. Just 9 months after the accident, Gene rolled into Crossroads Trikes and Trailers and started working again.
I apologize for the mess, but part of the reason is because everything has to be within my reach here. So it gets a little cluttered here, plus I'm a messy guy anyway.
Gene spends most of his time working in the office because his hands don't work as well as they once did.
I did one conversion before the accident. I can turn a wrench when I have to. I'm not a mechanic. I don't claim any real expertise there, but I could at least turn a wrench with them. So I'm familiar at least with what goes on back in the shop. But what I've done since the accident has been mostly just office work.
But he likes to get outside whenever he can.
So the theory is if I'll kick back like this, I'll take the weight off my bottom like this, then I'll do that for 10 minutes every hour, then I won't get these pressure sores anymore. They tell me.
They tell you. Do you believe them?
But I'm too busy to do that. Who's got time to lay back for 10 minutes every hour? I'm lucky if I can do it twice a day.
But Gene could not do what he does without his motorized wheelchair.
So how does this even work?
This thing here, it's just a joystick like you'd have on your game controller.
Is it really touch sensitive then?
Well, yeah, it is to a degree. I mean, I'm not going to slam it full forward because I'd obviously run away from it. This here is the switches back and forth between the indoor and the outdoor. So this is the indoor speed. You go about 2.5 miles an hour at the indoor speed, and then it'll go about 5 miles an hour on the outdoor speed. And then this is just the speed control here.
If you don't think Gene can get around, just try following him with a camera.
Oh, you go fast.
This is the slow speed. This is the inside speed. Okay, now I'm gonna switch to outside speed here, so you're gonna have to house it. Keep up. Okay, now this is outside speed.
Gene converts 1 or 2 motorcycles into trikes a month. While he runs the business, Tig turns the wrenches, pulls the plugs, and spins the tires.
Soda. No, this is from when I changed. I worked on cars, diesels, all sorts of stuff, but I just always come back to motorcycles for some reason.
And Cindy Anderson keeps the books.
You know, I really admire him because of his disability, and you wouldn't even know it. Very sharp, and you know, it takes him a little bit longer to do some things, but he's very capable, and he will let you know he's very capable too.
Eventually, Gene hopes Cindy will take over the business. She isn't sure what will happen, but she likes working with him.
His phone, it just cracks me up every time his phone rings. It's like, ah, I feel good. So if nothing else, you know, he brings sunshine around here too.
I'm doing fantastic.
You know, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. And this definitely wasn't something that him or his wife or his family thought would happen to him. And it's unfortunate, but he makes the best of what, you know, in his circumstance. So you just have to look up to him, you know. You have to. I don't have to. I get to be around him. I get to, you know, to have that in my life, and I'm very grateful for that, definitely.
Faith and religion are a big part of Gene's life, both before and after the accident.
I can see you all with my other glasses, but I can see my script with these glasses. We're going to talk about talk by Elder Quentin L. Cook in April conference, entitled The Lord is My Life.
In addition to serving as a scoutmaster, Gene also served as a bishop in the church, a non-paid leader of the congregation.
Not only has my dad been a bishop to other people and been a scoutmaster to other people, but he's also been my bishop, and he's also been my scoutmaster at various points in my life. And it's kind of interesting to see him. You know, obviously he's a great scoutmaster, he was a great bishop when he was a bishop, and you know, I personally felt that for myself. But I think what was most interesting, you know, thinking back on everything, is just how many lives that he touched as a bishop and as a scoutmaster, and just the tremendous impact that he had on so many people's lives.
Gene finds that his struggles in life bring him closer to God.
And I believe that the atonement of Jesus Christ is a miraculous thing that we don't fully understand, but that stands as an example to us of one man's ability to do hard things, the hardest thing of all, and not back down from it. And what an example to us. So when he tells us, when he tells us to be steadfast, he's not talking out of no experience. He's talking about the ultimate experience. He's talking from the ultimate experience.
Despite his injuries, Gene fights to be independent. That's why he rides the tracks train, so no one has to drive him.
Jordan Parkway, 106 South.
Okay, this is the stop for 4 hours, so we're almost there.
The end of the line, as far as we go.
Gene Wright proves that your circumstances don't make you who you are. He remains happy, friendly, and excited about life. He has every reason to be angry or depressed, but instead he loves his life and every moment of his journey.
You know, we get our hearts broken. We get, you know, some people will get cancer. Some people, you know, there's all sorts of different things. And I think the biggest thing would be, don't ever give up. And I'm going to do it no matter what. And that's his mantra. You know, that's who he is.
Yeah, so one thing that a lot of people don't know about my dad is that he's incredibly stubborn. And he knows it, and we know it. And I just knew that in this particular case that his stubbornness was only going to be a benefit to him. That, you know, just no matter how hard it was going to be, no matter how difficult, that he was gonna make the best of it, and that would be his measure of success, is by just making the best of his life and continuing to do what he does best, and that's just be a positive influence on the world.
It was truly just a culmination of a lifetime of doing the basics of prayer and scripture and fulfilling your calling, and it all comes back to those basics, and everybody's looking for something big and monumental that's made us strong, and it's really just doing the things that the Lord asks us to do, and doing them faithfully.
It's not just mental strength, it's spiritual strength. And there's a difference, and you have to have both. I used to tell people there is enough bad in the world that you can spend your whole lifetime looking at the bad and moaning about the bad and focused on the bad your whole life, and you won't be able to encounter a fraction of the bad that there is out there in the world. But if you want to focus on the good, you can spend your whole life focusing on the good, and you'll never encounter more than a fraction of all the good that there is out there. You can choose. And what you focus on is what you become.